I was on unemployment. We were just kind of barely scraping by and all this other stuff. We amassed a large amount of credit card debt in that aspect. It's not like you want to go and talk about it with your friends. Hey, I'm drowning, but no big deal.
Today we're joined by Sean Smith, 7-year veteran of the Air Force, proud Texan, to talk us through his entire debt journey, the financial challenges, how he used veteran debt assistance to find relief, and the path ahead.
Obviously, I wish I knew all the things that I know now, because I would go back and tell 18-year-old Sean, hey, we're supposed to be tough. We'll always say we'll survive, so we don't necessarily want to seek out help. We're supposed to be the strong ones and supposed to take care of these things. But, you know, sometimes you just have to reach out for help. Once you get down, it's really hard to get back up.
I'm not from Texas. You're from Texas. I don't know anything about Texas, but born, raised, still there.
Yeah.
So tell me all about kind of that upbringing and everything with that.
Growing up in Texas, it's kind of one of those things, if you don't grow up with a pride for Texas, then you didn't grow up there. Obviously, I've got it on my arm.
Yeah.
We did like cowboy stuff. I was riding horses when I was probably 5, 6, 7 years old, all the way up till maybe 11, 12. I started rodeoing early on, riding calves and stuff like that. My parents were divorced, so it was mostly me and my dad and my older brother going to rodeos and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, I rode calves in the rodeo. I never made it up to steers or bulls or anything like that. We kind of switched to a thing that's called team pinning, which is like 3 guys on a horse, and there's a group of cows at the end of the pen, and you got to go and sort 3 of them out. They're all numbered. Kind of a technical thing, but
It sounds so fake. As you're saying it, I'm like, that real people don't do this, right?
yeah, for sure. And we did that I did mostly in Louisiana, because my grandpa had some uncles that lived in Louisiana, and they did most of it over there.
Yeah.
I would spend my summers in Louisiana at my grandpa's and my uncle's, riding horses and working cows and baling hay and all that stuff.
Because when I first started talking to you, even now, I'm like, is this a character? I'm like, I feel like Texas, because you said like hunting, fishing, that whole thing is there. So what don't I know about the hunting? You're teaching me about steers. Like right when you started the classifications, my mind kind of went backwards.
You can kind of progress in the rodeo, and you start out as calves, and those just like maybe 2-year-olds. There's smaller ones, the ones without little horns.
Oh, gotcha.
Steers get a little bigger. They got shorter horns. And then obviously after that you got bulls.
Yeah.
And that's what you see on TV most of the time.
Okay. Like I was born and raised in Chicago, grew up in Chicago, and then I became an adult and decided to stay in Chicago. Like you became an adult. You obviously went away and then you came back, but you decided to like stay in Texas?
Yeah, it's that, I guess it's that pride for Texas thing. And I may have been a little naive coming out of the Air Force, and I should have probably done things different, maybe go to school straight out of there rather than going back home. I would have liked to have went to the University of Texas and graduated from there. But later in life, when I actually decided to go to school, it just wasn't an option.
Okay.
Most of my education was online, and I was able to do that at Lamar, which is a local college to Beaumont. And I got my master's through Texas Tech.
Okay. So one of the things that's interesting sort of in your backstory, because we've talked about your older brother. He's 3 years older than you?
Yes.
Okay. And we said when you had a conversation with your father as you were going into high school, he was older than you. So it was his senior year that he enlisted, or pretty soon after?
Yeah, I don't remember if he was, I forget what the program they call prior to going in.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he was in that through his high school year, or if he enlisted after. But yeah, once he enlisted, it was kind of like that was my path as well.
Yeah.
Just because of the opportunity that it afforded.
Yeah, so talk to me about that, because one of the things that's so interesting about that journey straight out of high school, and we're talking 17, 18 years old, I think what you said something that was like you had 3 months before you went off, before you actually enlisted, something to that effect.
Yeah, so I graduated, I mean, I was kind of, my whole senior year, I think I was a part of the program, recruiting program to go into the Air Force. And then once I graduated, it was graduate in May, leave for boot camp in August.
Okay.
Like for my whole high school career, that was basically my plan.
Yeah.
And looking back, obviously it was a good thing. I don't know that college right out of high school would have been a great idea, because I probably would have just squandered the opportunity and wasted somebody's money. And probably end up with huge student loans by now. But going to the Air Force has afforded me the option to have free college now, and that's taken care of. So I'm very thankful that I did it.
Yeah. And this is 2004?
Yes, when I went in.
And then, so you served from 2004 to 7 years after that?
Yeah, 2011.
Okay, so you go in at 18, 7 years later, 25-ish, 26?
Yeah, 25.
Okay. What's the Sean difference in terms of world, life, everything in between?
It was very interesting coming back home because I mean I could talk about places that I had been, and like some of my friends hadn't even been on an airplane, and I had been on an airplane troubleshooting fuel issues. And,
Okay.
And I'd been to Scotland, I'd been to Germany, I'd been to Ireland, I'd been to Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, and all those places. So I had all of those experiences coming back home, and it was a little surreal, you know, not being able to kind of share those experiences. I mean, I could share them, but obviously it wasn't. They didn't really have any input. It was just like, oh, that's cool. So
Yeah.
it made me grow up. I realized that, and I would try to prepare myself more than I think initially coming out of high school.
Yeah.
I had more of a mindset of saving money, being prepared, and that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're coming out as like a full-fledged adult.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is, you've lived a full 7-year life alongside that. You're coming home. You described it as an interesting transition. It's what you're saying there.
Yeah, so I went in, my original contract was 6 years. So you go in as, if you did a 6-year contract, you got to go in as a E3,
Okay.
A1C. So you just got more money basically right after tech school. And then I extended 1 year because I wanted to deploy one more time and pay off my truck. So when I moved home, I would at least have a place to live if I needed to. And it was in my truck. But I didn't have to live in my truck.
Okay.
It was just speculation that I might have to.
Yeah.
And then, just coming back, I mean, I had my friends. I've had roughly the same group of friends since kindergarten, first grade, anything like that. And then a couple of new people came along the way. But even then, I still kind of felt like an outsider because I had all these experiences.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say the transition was tough. It was just interesting. I mean, I had to renegotiate myself into their lives and realize one of the biggest things that I realized or had to realize when I was in the Air Force was all of my friends have lives. And just since I left, it's not their job to stay in touch with me. I mean, we're still going to be friends regardless.
Right.
It's kind of a hard thing to think about when you're alone to ask people to, hey, just stay in my life. But
Right.
I mean, and they didn't have any problem staying in my life even when I got out. It was just that thought process.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of ways, it almost sounds like fairy tale names. You're like, I was in Scotland, I was in Kuwait, right? And then you come back to Texas, or you come back to wherever you're from, and then just that's interesting that reintegration back into their lives. I mean, you lived a full chunk of life, and then came back and got acclimated to it.
Yep.
As you're talking to other people in that process who are going through that transition, is that like a common thread in terms of how sometimes turbulent that transition can be, or you use the word interesting, but how that transition is for somebody trying to get reintegrated back into civilian life?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the fine line of mental health is to wonder, do my friends still care about me, as opposed to I know they still care about me, I don't need them to check in on me, that type of stuff. So I think that is kind of where people could fall off in that health. And if anybody were going through that, I would gladly tell them, hey, go talk to somebody. I mean, I promise you, your friends still care about you. It's just your brain is a very mean thing, and it's going to make you think things that you probably shouldn't even think. And just go talk to somebody and get that off your chest. And having that other kind of talk with someone, it could be life changing.
One of the things that is very prevalent within people who have served is the aspect of mental health, and just broadly within the continental U.S., service or not service, just that element. And you're approaching this from a very logical, kind of streamlined approach of like, maybe your mind's playing tricks on you. You should probably talk to a professional. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Is this adult you talking? Have you always kind of had that perspective?
So, oddly enough, no. I didn't have this perspective until I think I was 30. It had gotten to a point to where I knew that I needed to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And then immediately after my first session of going to therapy, I signed up to go back to school and go online, because it was an epiphany for me to realize, oh, I'm good enough. I deserve the things that I want. And that after that first session of therapy, it kind of broke a wall in my brain, and I was like, okay, here's the drive that I wasn't necessarily looking for, but I found. Yeah. And that led me to get my bachelor's online, and then a year later get my master's.
I didn't have that epiphany until my second kid. So I think, kudos to you obviously for being able to do that.
Yeah.
And being ahead of the child epiphany curve, whatever that pipeline is that builds into it. Talk to me about your hindsight now. I think it's easy to talk about the things that happened in the past, but I'm not going to say regret or do-over, but just in terms of that arc of you enlisting, serving, transitioning back. I mean, what's the hindsight? Is there anything that you think about?
Like I said, I don't necessarily regret that I went into the Air Force because, like I said, it's got me to the point where I'm at with my education. Obviously, I wish I knew all the things that I know now, because I would go back and tell 18-year-old Sean, hey, you can go to college and it'll be fine, but you're going to have to work hard. But college wasn't even a thought process. So I wouldn't say I have any regrets. Everything I've done has got me to this point, and it's not a terrible place to be right now.
So I used to teach at the college level, and my favorite students, I would say, definitively, without a doubt, were adults, like full-fledged, like I got a life and a mortgage and a car note adults, and more specifically in that subset were veterans.
Yeah.
People who would come in diligent, they no BS, and the thing that I find so fascinating is as I've grown older, as I've become a parent and an adult, just kind of like a citizen of the country, I've grown to appreciate how that reflection with those adults, the things that they were bringing in, not only were they, of course, different, but they were well rationalized. There was a lot of depth to the thinking. And I mean, and that's one of the things that I think is so impressive about just you serving 7 years and coming back is like, you're bringing in 7 years of existence that you didn't have before, that the person next to you doesn't have.
Yeah.
Do you ever think like 7 years? Like it's
a long time.
It's a long time.
The biggest realization that it was 7 years was when I was actually in class with 18 and 19-year-olds.
Right.
And it was like the remedial math classes because I'd been out of high school so long. Or I didn't have the credentials to be able to start out in like algebra or something like that.
Yeah.
That was a harsh realization that this kid's just starting his life, and I'm trying to kind of put mine together after one career's already done.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's a perfect way of framing it. It's like one of those, if you've lived a full thing, this person's maybe starting their life in adulthood, and you've had this kind of lead on them, not to make you feel old, right? But like you've had this lead on them, you're bringing in such a unique perspective, and then just being shoulder to shoulder with those people and being able to have those day-to-day interactions.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at somebody who's 18, 19 years old, and their parents are probably either still living at home and all this other stuff, and I'm paying my own truck note, I'm paying my insurance, I'm paying for my rent, and it's a big juxtaposition there.
Were you bearded at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I grew that as quick as I could.
Okay. I like the imagery of like you in this classroom, and there's like these baby faced people, and it's just like you with the beard, and it's like, where'd you come from? Kind of thing. No, I love that.
Yeah, I still had a job to where I had to go into some industrial settings, so I don't think it was still big and bushy like I would like it, but I mean, it was there.
The moment of truth. See, look at that. You doubted me. That was unbelievable. So here we have a deck of question cards. We're not going to do any Hollywood magic. We're actually going to shuffle them. Okay. And I'm going to ask you to cut it too.
Okay.
So this is like, if this is a David Blaine moment, it'd be like, what?
If I've practiced sleight of hand.
Yes, was yours the 5 of hearts? No, nothing like that. But I'll have you cut it just so that we didn't stack the deck, we didn't rig the deck. Although I'll tell you, I've looked through the stack of cards once. There's one question that I don't like, and that's the only one I'll skip over if we get to it. So I will give you forewarning on that particular one. What is the greatest gift another human has given you? I think I know the answer.
It's probably a twofold.
Okay.
Just like, obviously my wife blessed me with my son, but before that, I have a 14-year-old daughter, but she's my stepdaughter.
Sure.
And so she came into my life when she was 3, and so that was a blessing before I even got my own child, and she's amazing. And so that's one gift, but also just my kids just blessing me with their presence. And watching them grow, watching them learn, being who they are is a gift as well.
Tell me something about yourself that no one knows and would be surprised to know about you. So you told me something earlier. Are you going to say it again?
When I was a senior in high school, I was in one-act play, and I was the lead in our play. And the first time that we ever performed, I got Best Actor out of 10 people and 3 other schools.
And your character, Harlequin?
Harlequin, yeah.
Okay, and what was the name of the show?
The play was A Company of Wayward Saints.
Okay. I should have asked you to bring pictures. I didn't know about it. Do you have any documentation of this?
I do not, honestly.
Okay.
I was cleaning out my closet.
Yeah.
And maybe last year before, and I actually threw the plaque away. I let that go.
I've never been more disappointed.
I know. My wife talks about it every time that I bring it up. She's like, I know. So I just threw the plaque away for her.
Okay. I feel like that's almost like a sacrificial moment, right? You're just like tossing it.
Should have filmed it.
Yeah, you should, right? I was wondering what you believe happiness is and how it can be achieved. So we talked a little bit about that sort of epiphanous moment. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's directly related to happiness, but that's sort of like sense of purpose. But is there, I don't know if it's a formula, I don't know if it's a concept for you.
Happiness to me, I think you could maybe say it in a word. Happiness to me is easy. When your relationships are easy, you don't have to work that hard at them. Obviously, there's some you need to work hard at, but it's the ones you want to work at that makes that easy. Like you're in a job that you really enjoy, so the hard work isn't necessarily easy, but it's easy to do because you want to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, happiness to me is just the ease of life when you're doing something you want to do.
Oh, that's beautiful. We talked about this a little bit, but what is one thing you regret not saying or doing? So we talked about that language of regret, but is there anything on the opposite side where you don't regret doing it?
Going to therapy.
Yeah.
I think that was a big thing I should have done sooner. Maybe should have done it while I was in the Air Force. Should have done it maybe immediately after. But still, it's one thing I don't regret doing because it's made stronger relationships with my kids, my wife, and just in general, it's just made me who I am. Made me a better person.
Has it unlocked that easy that you talked about?
It puts things into perspective, what matters, and it's when you focus on yourself and you're able to kind of help talk your own self through the important aspects of life. Right. It becomes easy.
What is something people value that you either no longer value or you just don't put too much stock into?
Drinking. I quit drinking a year ago.
Okay.
And my social life has died a lot, but it's fine. People go to parties, go to events, and it's like they have to drink because they're in social aspects. And
right.
Yeah, it becomes difficult when you're not drinking and there's a social thing going on and there's awkwardness. But I don't value that aspect anymore, and I have to drink to go somewhere, then I don't have to go there.
That you and me are the same. I don't drink. As best as you can describe, kind of take me through the journey leading up to what we'll call it the most debt that you had accumulated.
I was an operator at a large refinery back home, and there ended up being a company lockout, which is it's company enforced shutout rather than the union striking. And that went on for like 10, 11 months almost. And so, for one, couldn't last that long without a paycheck. And I was also going to school online for my bachelor's, and so we got locked out in May, and I got my bachelor's in August of that year. So I was planning on transitioning to more of a business role. It came sooner than expected. Yeah. And I ended up getting a job as in sales, outside sales at a industrial equipment company in October of 21 after the lockout, the same year as the lockout. Previous to that point, I had cashed out my 401k from that, and we survived on that until I got a job. So I did that for a year and a half, and in May of 23 last year, I got laid off from that job.
Right.
And so these things kind of compounded to the point of us never being able to catch up. And I'm sure you know how finances work. Once you aren't caught up, it's impossible to almost catch up unless you're just making some huge sacrifices.
Yeah.
And so from May of that year to December of 23 last year is when I found the job I have currently. I was on unemployment. We were just kind of barely scraping by and all this other stuff. We amassed a large amount of credit card debt in that aspect.
Yeah.
And when it wasn't just one time, it was over the 3 years.
Sure.
Based on all the hardships. And it's just, like I said, once you get down, it's really hard to get back up, especially with the way the economy's going and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Prices are going up on everything. I would say the beginning of this year was probably the most debt that we'd ever had. And that's when I went and talked to my bank and asked if there was any sort of debt consolidation loans that we could do, just so I'm having one payment go to these things. Trying to repair my credit score also in all this. We were trying to salvage it. It was still fine. We were still making the minimum payment, so it didn't look bad. But the minimum payments never get you to a point of where you're healthy. But the bank said I had too many open accounts, too much debt essentially, and so they couldn't help. I don't know how I came across it. I think it might have been email, might have been just been an advertisement on a web page or something like that. But Veteran Debt Assistance was the thing that came across, and I said, well, I mean, I'm kind of at my wit's end here. So I clicked it, and then ended up getting a call from a company, and they offered me all these solutions and how it's going to break down and all this other stuff. So, I mean, in a way, Veteran Debt Assistance is the kind of the turning point of where I am right now. And it's just recently got my first offer to pay off one of my credit cards from them. So, so we're definitely on the up and up.
Yeah. Let's go back a step, and you talk about kind of accumulating this big stack of debt. Mm-hmm. Talk me through some of those experiences. As you know, debt's going up. I'm sure morale, mental health, everything's starting to taper and tank.
Debt is a weight, and obviously it's not a physical weight; it's a mental one, because you're seeing the numbers go up, but also you're doing this to survive. And I mean, I had a wife and 2 kids, so it's a mental weight that you're carrying. And there's a lot of things that go through your mind, like, am I doing something wrong to not be able to attack this? What can I do different? I mean, I've gotten 2 degrees in this kind of a short span, and I'm not in a position to where this is getting chipped away like I want it to. I'm not providing, and I think that's the hardest part of all, is because I mean I'm supposed to be the provider. I'm the dad, and I wasn't being very dad at that point. It didn't feel good.
You realizing, okay, I've got Veteran Debt Assistance, I've got a plan, I've got a structure kind of moving forward. Is it the second you hang up the phone? Is it, 2 days later? Is it a week later where you're starting to maybe feel that change?
I would say within the first month, because we were paying minimum payments, like I said, that, when we started to see that change. And, but within that first month, talking to them, I remember asking, I said, so you're telling me that I'm not making these credit card payments anymore, and so I'm getting all this money back. That's what the Veteran Debt Assistance people told me, was that, you're not supposed to be paying on these credit cards. We're taking it from here. Yeah. And so, within that first month, it was, that was when the weight was kind of lifted. But then also there was the skepticism of, is this right? Is this a real thing? Because all I did was not pay my credit cards, and here I am 3 months down the road, and I've just been paying into this thing, and there's no action being done. But like I said, I just recently got my first offer. So the weight is definitely, it's shedding.
Yeah. Can you walk me through some of the logistics in terms of highest amount of debt that you were at, and kind of where that number was when you were kind of looking at the biggest part of that debt?
I'd say the highest, I don't remember the highest. I think it was maybe around between 40 and 50. That was just accumulation of the years, like I said, in the hardships. I mean, truthfully, could we have been more responsible? Yeah, we could maybe not eaten for 3 days, but at the same time, we need to eat, so that we had to use those credit cards too.
It's always the part that people gloss over in the conversation of debt, is just like the human element that we just so quickly forget about, we don't talk about. Mm-hmm. But we're not just talking about Sean. We're talking about Sean plus his family, Sean plus his kids. And it's not due to a lack of effort. I mean, you gave me quite a bit of information about all the steps that you were taking. Despite those efforts, you still weren't able to resolve that debt. Yeah. And so I'd be curious to know, is it like the mental battle of trying to navigate that process? Is it you're waking up every day and you're going, I know I'm trying my best, but I'm still not getting there?
It's definitely the mental, and also mental in many ways, because mental, it's weighing on me that we're not chipping away at this, but weighing on my family because we're not able to do anything. We're very mobile people. We like to go on the weekends. We like to go during the summer. We like to go stay at hotels and let the kids play in the pool, see nice things, go to the zoo and all this other stuff. So we weren't able to do that, and so yeah, that was the mental toll, along with why is this happening? Why can't I change this?
One of the things that people ask quite a bit about services like veteran debt assistance is this a good fit for me? Mm-hmm. Is it something that a friend, let's say somebody comes up to you, they start sharing their hardships about their financial situation with you, and they're like, Sean, I'm kind of at my wit's end. I'm paying the minimums. Nothing's happening. Mm-hmm. The debt's just accumulating. And you have this experience with veteran debt assistance. Are you saying, hey, look, this is what I did. Check out veteran debt assistance. What's your approach?
I don't have many veteran friends around me where I am, but it's a weight lifted. I have a path forward. And when I was contacted, they built a plan for me based on my current finance or amount of my wife's finances. And we're able to make these payments and also get a ton of money back during the month. I would highly recommend veteran debt assistance in that aspect because they not only helping me work on this debt, but they built a plan that doesn't put me in a further bind to get it fixed.
Something that's interesting about what you just said is the perspective of not just thinking about the total sum of debt, mm-hmm. but you said the month, right? So there's the big macro level, but again, just like on the human level of now we get to go to the zoo, right? Like now we get to actually have plans and now kind of that door opens a little bit. Are you thinking about the new affordances that you have after coming through something like veteran debt assistance?
Yeah, absolutely. The freedoms are very prominent, especially considering my son's birthday is next week, and I mean we're able to do something. One thing he wanted for his birthday, he wants to go to a hotel and swim in a pool. So now we can do that for him. We can get him a birthday present. We can do all of these things that we couldn't prior. So yeah, it's gotten us back to who we are by way of veteran debt assistance.
So walk me through mm-hmm. the before and after monthly payments. Before veteran debt assistance, you were paying how much, and then afterwards, how much are we saving here?
With the monthly payments, veteran debt assistance giving me back $1,300 a month.
Okay.
That's been a blessing, just being able to go and kind of return to who we are by way of veteran debt assistance.
Yeah, so we've kind of touched on it or walked around it, but the who we are part of that, mm-hmm. it's so strange that that's in so many ways kind of defined by working capital, the ability to pay for some things, but walk me through the things we talked about, going to hotels and going on trips, but mm-hmm. you know, what is that day-to-day impact for you?
There's a reason they call it crippling because I mean our legs were essentially taken out from under us. All we could do was go to work, come home, and that's it. We weren't able to enjoy the weekends like we would normally do, and me and my wife like to go see live music. We weren't able to do that. We try to keep it from our kids. We don't like to involve them, and we try to do as much for them as we can without really saying anything about it. And that's why it's crippling, because I mean it's hard on us, but we try not to make it hard on the kids.
Maybe I'm projecting here, but I think the thing that's so interesting is that you would sooner go without than the kids.
Oh yeah.
And so whatever they need, you're amassing more debt, you're going into worse conditions, kind of to shelter them, to hide them from those realities that you're all facing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean that's it. You're sheltering them. One, they don't understand it. Two, they're not gonna comprehend why they can't do something. Why they can't do something fun. It's been a blessing. It's really been very helpful for us to be able to kind of get back to who we are, even though the kids don't know anything's going on. You're wearing it like a scarlet letter that nobody can see but yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you want to go and talk about it with your friends. Hey, I'm drowning, but no big deal.
Yeah.
We'll survive. And yeah, we're supposed to be tough. We'll always say we'll survive, so we don't necessarily want to seek out help because we're the dads. We're supposed to be the strong ones and supposed to take care of these things. But you know, sometimes you just have to reach out for help, and there are things like veteran debt assistance out there that are in place to genuinely help.
Just talking about this giving us your time, sharing your story. Sean, it's been great to get to know you, and we really appreciate it, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, and thank you to Veteran Debt Assistance for having me, and thank you to all the crew and everything. So let's give everybody a round of applause.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, make sure to leave them below in the comment section. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to click on the thing that just popped up.